Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Lurkira. This is for Nursing 6020, and this is my theorist presentation on Madeleine Leininger. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in and get started. So Madeleine Leininger was born on July 13th, 1925 in Sutton, Nebraska. She received a diploma in nursing from St. Anthony's School in Denver, Colorado. And in 1950, she earned a bachelor's in science in nursing from St. Scholastica in Kansas. She then continued on and received a master's of science in psychiatric and mental health nursing from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. And then following that, in 1965, she was awarded her PhD in cultural and social anthropology from the University of Washington in Seattle. As you can tell, she was very, very successful and achieved a lot. So what is she responsible for? She is responsible for the transcultural nursing theory. This first appeared in Leininger's Culture, Care, Diversity, and Universality, which is published in 1991. But she started developing it in the 1950s. And what had happened is early in her career as a nurse, she recognized the importance of the concept of caring and nursing. So she would get frequent statements from her patients that, she was appreciated and that they liked the care that received. And that prompted her to focus on care as being a central component of nursing practice. So that's kind of what started it all. And as nurses, we still do that to this day. We focus on care at the center of everything we do. I mean, that's why we do what we do. So her theory was further developed in her book, Transcultural Nursing, which was published in 1995. And then a third edition of Transcultural Nursing was published in 2002. The theory-based research and application of the theory were explained in the latter edition. So transcultural theory, what is it? It is a study of cultures to help us understand both the similarities and the differences in our patient groups. So defined by Leininger as a substantive area of study and practice focused on comparative cultural care, which is caring values, beliefs, and practices of individuals or groups of similar or different cultures. Transcultural nursing's goal is to provide culture-specific and universal nursing care practices for the health and well-being of people, or to help them face unfavorable human conditions, illness, or death in culturally meaningful ways. So I feel that in our age, being culturally unbiased and culturally accepting and ensuring that we have culturally competent care, we've all learned that. So I feel like this was the beginning of that. So it's just kind of looking back at where this theory was developed and how it got developed. So I like to start out by explaining culture because I think that's important. It's a set of beliefs held by a certain group of people handed down from generation to generation. So myself, I tend to not think that I have a lot of cultures that pertain to me, but thinking about it, I guess I do. I think a certain way about health and well-being. I think a certain way about what I would want for life-sustaining treatments. So a lot of cultures believe in different things. They may decide, that's not in their culture. They don't want that, or, this medication doesn't go along with their thoughts and beliefs. So it is our job to kind of help and assist with, well, how could we fit that into their culture? And Leininger identified this theory and, important aspect of nursing. And she was working in a child guidance home that many behavioral patterns were directly related to a cultural basis, and that this was due to a lack of cultural and care knowledge. And that was defined as the missing link to understand the requirement necessary to support those patients and have them in compliance for their healing and wellness. When she identified a lack of the cultural and care knowledge at this children's wellness home, it was these insights that were beginnings of the 1950 initiative of that theory, and what she, termed transcultural nursing. She is the founder of transcultural nursing movement in education, research, and practice. So important to know, again, very influential. So the practice of transcultural nursing addresses the cultural dynamics that influence the nurse and the client relationship. So it focuses specifically on that aspect of nursing and helps us to study what will help with those outcomes for this type of care. She proposed that there are 3 modes for guiding nurses, judgments, decisions, or actions in order to provide appropriate, beneficial, and meaningful care. So number 1, preservation and or maintenance. 2, accommodation and or negotiation. 3, repatterning and or restructuring. These modes have greatly influenced the nurse's ability to provide culturally congruent nursing care, as well as fostering culturally competent nurses. So I believe, in a nutshell, that this theory provided care measures that are in harmony with an individual or group's cultural beliefs, practices, and values. So we've all heard the term culturally congruent care, which that is the goal of this. Preservation and our maintenance, can refer to, we're going to preserve their culture and or maintain it. We're going to provide accommodations or negotiate with them. I think a good example of this would be, if you have a patient that's adamant that they're not going to take a certain medicine or do a treatment that could essentially save their life, how can we accommodate that to where it would be okay for them to do so, even if it's not full on? What aspects could help, and what could we negotiate to maybe make it work for them, even if it's not, all of it. And repattering and our restructuring. I believe that this kind of goes into our own biases and our current practice, and how can we create new patterns to make this more accepting and restructure our thoughts to provide better culturally competent and congruent care. So a quote that she says is, "Together, the nurse and the client creatively design a new or different care lifestyle for the health or well-being of the client. This mode requires the use of both generic and professional knowledge and ways to fit such diverse ideas into nursing care and actions and goals. Care knowledge and skill are often repatterned for the best interest of the clients. Thus, all care modalities require co-participation of the nurse and client, working together to identify a plan, implement, and evaluate each caring model for culturally congruent nursing care. These modes can stimulate nurses to design nursing actions and decisions using the knowledge and culturally based ways to provide meaningful and satisfying holistic care to individuals, groups, or institutions." So I feel like using these 3 modes can guide you, but again, working with that person or, patient, and one patient may not be like every patient, even from the same culture. So this is just a fun little picture I found. Transcultural nursing is a comparative study of cultures to understand similarities and differences across human groups. So what does all this mean? If we put it all together and, synthesize the information, culture affects the nurse-client exchange. We must use compassion and clarity and ask about cultural practices and preferences. Incorporate the patient's personal, social, environmental, and cultural needs into the plan of care, and respect cultural diversity, increase knowledge and sensitivity with this essential nursing concern. So after reviewing all this, a question that I would like to pose to you guys, I'm sure in everybody's different work settings, there have been many times where different cultural aspects have come up. And I would like you to define a time in your nursing practice that you have used cultural care, accommodation, or negotiation. And then under that, I put a little sentence that I found, and I thought it was interesting: creative nursing actions to help with particular culture adaptations or to help negotiate plan of care to make an effort to create a shared goal for an optimal health outcome. You know, many of us are busy. I don't know, could be burnout. And it's real easy if they're like, well, hey, this is what the doctor recommends. And that patient is like, well, that's not within my, defined culture, or I don't believe in that. And we said, oh, okay, well, that's on you. And we turn and walk out. So just kind of, I think it's a great reminder as well to be a little sensitive to these patients and figure out ways that we could help with their situation. But that is it. And thank you for listening.